Hi everyone, it's William back with the Grand Duke Dmitri YouTube series, and I apologize for being a little erratic lately. I had a busy week and I wasn't quite sure what direction to go in with what we'll be doing next. So I have some new round glasses. I'm not sure that's a good look for me, but you know, when you order something online. Anyway, if I look a little strange, well, so be it. Okay, so today we will finish up the long letter that Dmitri wrote to Maria from the Hotel Steinmetz in the Bavarian resort town of Tegernsee. And the last part of the letter that we did, he was talking about himself and sort of wavering between describing himself as a brilliant and misunderstood person on the one hand, and a somewhat stupid person, but someone who likes to try to seem smart on the other hand. So interesting range of things there, really opposites that he was saying about himself. Okay, so let's finish up this letter. Aunt Maria still hasn't arrived, and judging by the rumors, she will not turn up until the beginning of August. New style. When she's here, things will of course get a little better, but I doubt that our more or less hopeless state of boredom will improve very much. The weather isn't great here. It was raining until the sun came out. The latter, of course, is quite capricious. Every time a cloud fills the sky or night falls, it refuses to shine. Devil take it. And now I wrap my arms around you, your husband, and your son Leonard. Your, i.e., only your very own Dmitri. Isn't my signature elegant? Okay, that's our Dmitri, and he's trying hard. He has been trying through this whole letter to make his sister laugh, and I'm sure he succeeded. Okay, Aunt Maria was Grand Duchess Maria Aleksandrovna, who had married Queen Victoria's son Alfred, who was the Duke of Edinburgh and also a royal duke in Germany. And I can't remember, and I'm kicking myself. I should have looked it up, what his German title was. Anyway, Aunt Maria was Dimitri's real biological aunt. She was Paul's sister, older sister, I think. But she and Paul and Sergei, the youngest three in the family, had been quite close when they were children. So apparently they still like to see each other and take holidays, overlapping holidays, if not holidays together in Tegernsee. Funny that Dmitri talks about rumors instead of, well, this is what Dad says about when Aunt Maria will be arriving. Instead, he says, judging by the rumors. So, yeah, I don't know. And she had these very interesting daughters. One who was at this time, I think, the Crown Princess of Romania. That would be Marie of Romania. Missy Dmitri had quite a past with her. And there was baby B, who married a prince from the Spanish royal family. Her name was Beatrice. There was Alexandra, and the one I know the least about, although she was a patient at my beloved Schatzalp in 1903 and 1904, and she fell in love with one of the doctors and tried to lure him away to become her personal doctor. And then there was the infamous Ducky. Infamous, I say, because of, her antipathy, her later antipathy in the 1920s toward Dmitri, and also her well-documented support for the Nazi Party. She was one of the funders of the early Nazi Party. Okay, anyway, Dmitri doesn't say if they were all grown women at this point, and Dmitri doesn't say if any of them would be joining their mother. But so we'll, I don't know unless you have some information specific to them. I don't know. I can't tell you whether they came or not. Something that surprised me, because I had very sloppily I have been saying all along that this letter was from August. It's an undated letter, but I assumed it was from August, and it appears that it actually is mid-July, because Dmitri is saying she won't turn up until the beginning of August, new style. So it was probably already August. Well, so it is an August letter. But the difference is between the Gregorian and Julian calendar. So if it was the beginning of August in the Julian calendar, which Dmitri was using, then, no, wait. I've got them backwards. So this, yeah, it would have been mid-June, July. Boy, I'm really stumbling today. Sorry, it would have been July, because if it wasn't yet August, the new calendar, the Gregorian calendar, is 13 days at this point ahead of the old calendar. And so when it was the beginning of August on the Western calendar, it still would have been mid-July on the Julian calendar. Okay, so that clears that up, kind of. And Dmitri's looking forward to it. He liked her. He liked his Aunt Maria. The sisters were, of course, quite amusing. You know about his past with Missy, that he had made some kind of clumsy pass at her as a 16-year-old in 1908, and it had created a family scandal. And Maria had been blamed for leading him on. Missy had been blamed for leading him on. And it turned out that it was apparently a misunderstanding, that Dmitri did think that she had signaled him, that she was open to this. But, yeah, it was a misunderstanding. It was apparently worked out. He continued to, even up until, 1920, he was still talking about just being crazy about her. So I think if she was expected to be there, he probably would have mentioned it, but I don't know. Okay. Hopeless state of boredom. He's hoping it will get a little better, but he doesn't think it will improve very much. You know about the boredom from the previous parts of the letter. The weather here isn't great. As you can see, well, maybe you can't tell, but it's raining here, and it's the end of June, so the weather isn't great either. I like the way Dmitri puts it in his imaginative way, that the sun is capricious. So anytime there's a cloud, or at night the sun capriciously refuses to shine. So I like the way he puts that. And then his devil take it, that was something that he said frequently. And sometimes in translations you see this rendered as darn it, or something like that. I mean, not exactly those words, but one of the things that translators sometimes do that I dislike is sort of smooth things over and say, well, they don't really very often use the expression devil take it in English, although the expression exists, so we'll use something more generic. And I don't like that at all. The Russian here is literally devil take it, so let's stick to that. Your son Leonard, that's interesting. He doesn't have the spelling right. He spells it Lenard, and it was with a T at the end. And I'm not sure about Swedish pronunciations. It could have been that it was pronounced, that it sounded like a D when it was pronounced. Or it could have been that just Dmitri just was more familiar with the name with a D at the end. His spelling was never very good. And then when he signs off, again, typical Dmitri, your Dmitri, but with the qualification, only your Dmitri, your very own. So, yeah, who else would it have been who would have claimed him? Well, I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I mean, obviously it's a joke because no one else would have said, Dmitri, my very own. Okay, and then he tops it off with, isn't my signature elegant? Yeah, he had an interesting signature. He had an interesting penmanship because his he slanted very strongly to the left. So, it's not hard to recognize his writing or to distinguish it from others because he was right-handed, but he had this very left-slanting way of writing. And it could be, I mean, people who knew him, who have talked about him, who have childhood memories of him, say that he always used his right hand for smoking. He was smoking constantly, so that was one thing they noticed. And based on that, he seems to have been right-handed. But, for that generation, my grandfather, for instance, who was born, I think, in 1906, he was left-handed. But he, had to adapt to writing and doing other things with his right hand because that was forced on people back then. So I don't know. Dmitri could have been left-handed, but learned to use his right hand. But I doubt it. I think if you're smoking with your right hand, that's not because somebody has forced you to. So anyway, if any of you are handwriting experts, maybe you can comment on why that would be the case. So what about next time? Well, I have a very interesting letter from April 1911, and Dmitri happened to be staying. It was the Easter holiday, Pascha, and so he happened to be staying at the Alexander Palace in Tsarskaya Selo with Nicholas and Alexandra. So that is interesting, and I hope you'll come back for that, and see you then. Bye.